But now we are moving on to our third ML Summit presentation by someone that I admire tremendously, Elise White Diaz. She is a Seidlitz education consultant, very sought after trainer, author, and her new book, Discover, Connect, Respond. She is going across the United States and Canada. She is a keynote speaker, but she is also doing amazing trainings, more than one kind of training from this book. So I'm just going to let Elise take it so that we have as many minutes with her as possible. Elise White Diaz, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Salva. Thank you, Tan. Thank you, Dr. Topple. Thank you, Dr. Dorina. Thank you, all of you guys. I was looking over the chat and who's in the Zoom, and I am just so happy to see so many beautiful faces of friends, old friends, new friends. This is an exciting time in the ML Summit. And it's an exciting time, and it's also a challenging time too, isn't it? The other day, I was in Maryland talking with some educators, and a teacher told me, she said, you know what? Hybrid teaching was really hard this last year. And I said, what? Hybrid teaching? Why are you doing hybrid teaching? And she said, well, our building was closed due to asbestos. And so what we did is we had our at-risk students come in person, and then we had the rest of the students Zoom online with us, and we taught both students at the same time. Now, I remember the time that I was doing that as well. How many people in this Zoom did hybrid teaching during the pandemic? You could raise your hand, you could put it in the chat, right? Bless all of you. It was very challenging, wasn't it? And I was thinking back about teaching during the pandemic and what it was like. And I asked ChatGPT, my friend ChatGPT, I was like, help me kind of image this time. Help me remember what it was like. And here's the picture that ChatGPT made for me, right? Now, we had plastic barriers between the students. We had Brady Bunch style Zoom screens. And if you know anything about me, I believe so deeply in connection and teaching, and this was not connection. How are we going to build language through connection when we have all of these barriers up? Now, I'm curious about something. What do you feel like is challenging right now in your setting, in your time? I'm going to invite you to put it in the chat. So please use this sentence stem, sentence frame. Right now, blank feels challenging. Let's go ahead and put some of these in the chat. And I kind of want to see where we're at with everything. Attention span feels challenging, right? Yes, Katie, all of the kids, they're on devices. They have trouble paying attention. I like thinking about it as like they have an interest-based attention system, right? If they're interested, they're going to pay attention, but if they're not, they're going to check out. Yeah, technology feels challenging. Policy feels challenging. Nicola just said she just moved to another country and to a new job. Oh, good for you, Nicola. Lack of focus, having the time to provide the necessary PD. Oh, people seeing value in their ML students in that position of value. Wow, that kind of tugs at my heartstrings. School schedule feels challenging. The political environment feels challenging, definitely. Time management, there's so many different things. Teaching children with no attention span. Okay. Yeah, the new requirements. Content teachers, not adding enough language supports in their instruction. We could go on and on, can't we? Here's what I want to show you guys. And when I go around the country, when I hop from working with different districts and different schools, I kind of ask them this question because I want to get a picture of the tone of where we are right now. And we're going to see if what you said matches what the majority of people say. We're going to do it Family Feud style. Are you guys ready? Okay, so what are the top answers about what feels challenging during this time? And if this resonates with you, then go ahead and maybe go like me too, like this, or put something in the chat saying, yep, that's it. Here we go. What did most people say? Here's the first one. New initiatives by the district, right? If that feels challenging, yep, Ton says me too. Put that in chat. We are doing a lot with the science of reading. We're doing a lot with trying new things. And so if there's something new that's coming down from the district level and that feels challenging, go ahead and put that in the chat. Here's the next top answer. Are you ready? Co-teaching. That is one of the things that I love to do is I go and I support different language specialists and content teachers with co-teaching. And there's so much potential in that, but there's also challenges because we're working with other adults. And so co-teaching sometimes is challenging. AI, right? A couple years ago, we were talking about, oh, the students are using AI. How do we stop them? I think the conversation has changed. I think the conversation is now, how do we leverage AI and use it most powerfully and effectively? So that's what a lot of people are talking about. Anybody else talking about that? Yeah? Behavior. Oh my gosh. All across the board. Every school I go into. So just like you guys were saying, students are more checked out than they ever have been before. And we see more explosive, disruptive behaviors than we ever have before. And we're seeing more social emotional issues. And think about what our multilingual students have been going through the last couple of years. During the pandemic, if their grown-up at home was not a safe person, they had to spend extra time with that person. Think about all of the fear and the uncertainty around deportation, around things that are happening with ICE. Just recently in Houston, there was a man that was killed, right? Who was a US citizen, but kids are afraid. Okay, then we have the changing number of multilingual students. So interestingly, I have been working with a lot of low incidence districts where they have never had MLs before, but all of a sudden they're starting to get multilingual students and they're like, Elise, help us. We have a small number of multilingual students and we don't know what to do, right? Our students in the United States are shifting around to different areas and our changing numbers are creating new opportunities and also some new challenges. Fears about ICE. We already talked about this. This is real. Sometimes we are seeing greater absenteeism because students are afraid to come to school. So these are challenging times for our multilingual students. Burnout. Anybody, right? Emotional burnout. Our job is so hard, and we have to manage 29 different little nervous systems in front of us every single day. And the hormones among our adolescents are real, right? So we are feeling burnout ourselves. Okay, here's the top answer. You guys ready for this? Here's what people tell me. Staff transitions. So a lot of people I'm working with are saying, oh, we have a new principal. We have a new superintendent. We're completely changing the way we do things. And so there are a lot of challenges that teachers are expressing to me as I talk with them across the country. Now, I have to apologize to you guys because I kind of misrepresented how I was teaching during the pandemic earlier. This is really what it was like. You ready for this? It was kind of more like this. This is how I was teaching during the pandemic because can I confess something to you guys? I am a hypochondriac. Okay, that means that if there's any sickness, if I read about anything on WebMD or Google, or if I even hear about like anything, I just start itching. I just feel it. Like I have that thing. And so, as you can imagine, anybody else a hypochondriac in here? Let's band together. Go ahead and put it in the chat. Anybody? I hope so. Okay. Yep, I see some in there. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I feel seen. Stay away from WebMD. Exactly. Okay, awesome. Yes. Okay, Dorina, yes, wonderful. So, you guys, I am such a bad hypochondriac. Can I just tell you that when I was living in Honduras, I was deathly afraid of dengue fever. If anyone know about dengue fever, have you heard about this before? And the reason I was so afraid of it is because the news would put out things and it could become hemorrhaging dengue, which means you bleed from every orifice and you die, right? So it's terrifying. But I am such a hypochondriac that when I got sick in Honduras, my husband and my doctor went into cahoots to lie to me when I had dengue fever. They did not tell me. Every single day I went into the doctor and I had blood drawn. And I felt horrible. I had a migraine over my whole body. And they didn't tell me I had dengue. I said, "How's my flu doing?" And they're like, "It's going." Every single day for a week. And then finally at the end, the doctor was gone and a nurse took my blood. And she said, how do you feel with your dengue? And I'm like, "What? I have dengue fever?" I was completely shocked. And of course, I got better from it. And I think that my anger at my husband was justified for lying to me that I had dengue fever. But actually, I think he did the right thing because I am such a hypochondriac that if I would have known that I had dengue fever, I would become emotionally dysregulated as I am in this picture, right? So he lended his calm to me, and that helped me to regulate myself emotionally, which helped me to produce language and think logically. Now, this is the theme that we're talking about today, is we're talking about regulation. Regulation is so important in the field of education. And I'm taking from the definition of Ginger Healy. If you haven't read Regulation and Co-regulation, she defines all of these things in very concise, easy to understand ways. So here's how we're defining regulation. It is the ability to modify emotions, change, right? And respond to situations with balance and with calm and control. Now, my husband helped keep me regulated during dengue fever. And this is significant because I want to introduce to us, if we haven't seen this before, the model of the brain from Dr. Dan Siegel. If we work in elementary, we have probably seen these zones of regulation, right? We have language around this. We say, "Hey, this sweet little kid is in the red zone right now. He is dysregulated. He is flooded with emotions." And then maybe they're in the yellow zone, like they're getting there, but they're not there yet. Or they're in the green zone. They're calm, they're cool. Now, I love Dr. Dan Siegel's model of the brain because it communicates very well to students, especially upper elementary, middle school, and high school. He says that we have an upstairs brain and a downstairs brain. And when our downstairs brain gets flooded with emotions of overwhelm or frustration or stress, it's very difficult for us to wade through the water and climb the stairs to our upstairs brain where rational thinking, logic, and language happen, guys, right? And memory is made. And so when we are regulated, when we're in our upstairs brain, this is the perfect time to help our multilingual students produce language. We know about lowering the affective filter, but sometimes when our multilingual students come from hard places, we need to do more. And so if they are experiencing dysregulation, this is a flooded brain where it's hard to think, it's hard to process, it's hard to produce language. And we're very familiar with these two states, but I recently became very interested in the middle state, this yellow state right here, because this middle zone is what I think is happening in our classrooms a lot of the time. And this middle zone is not as bad as a student who has flipped their lid, right? It's kind of in the middle, but still, we're not at the place where we're working at our highest levels. And I think we see this in our classrooms a lot. How do we support this? Okay, so we have to define state for us. So take a moment and read this silently to yourselves. Okay, now I'm going to read it to you. Please track the text with my pointer here. A state is the condition your brain and body are in at a given moment, shaping what you're able to do, think clearly, solve problems, managing emotions, or learn new information. States are temporary. We move in and out of them throughout the day. Now, guys, I have developed a new framework for this middle zone. I'm so excited to share it with you. I haven't shared it with anybody else. I need a cool name for it. I love Doreena's Pine Cove pedagogy. So I'm open to names if you want to help me name it. But what I'm so excited about with this new framework is it tells us what to do practically for students who are in this middle zone. Here we go. You ready? Okay, here's the first one. On the beach. Now, when we are on the beach, we can build sandcastles together. We can have conversations very easily. We are calm and we are confident and we are excited, right? This is like the green zone. This is the regulated zone. We can have long, deep conversations. We can solve complex problems. When the waves are rushing in, we could figure out how to build a wall to our sandcastle that keeps the waves out. And we have energy for taking risks and for challenges. We're able to take risks with the language and we're able to do things that we're excited by challenges. This is the optimal state for learning, and this is the optimal state for language production. Okay. Our goal is to leverage this opportunity when students are on the beach. We want to give them that really rigorous instruction, like we've seen this morning through Tana and Doreena's talks, and about that setting the conditions for this. This is the optimal time for that. But sometimes something happens and we move from the beach to the waves. This is the middle zone. Now, if you look at this kid in the waves here, from the top up, they look fine. We have no idea that they are being activated right now. But underneath the water, we can feel the pull of the current and we're distracted because we're looking at those waves roll in. And so we're not completely at the top of our brain. Our attention is diverted. And if you've been to the beach and you're in the waves, you know that it's hard to communicate. You have to yell, hey, come over here. And you have to use big gestures, right? It's time to go, right? Because you can't hear as well. Your hearing is impacted and your expressive language is impacted as well. Now, here's what this looks like. It looks like you're a little bit activated. Your heart starts speeding up right now. Your breathing becomes more shallow. And can I say, actually, I'm a little bit in the waves right now too, because I am presenting on video, which means if I make a mistake, it's all out there for the whole world to see. But I look like I'm doing good, don't I? But I just feel like realize my heart's beating a little bit fast right now. I'm a little bit activated. I'm a little bit in the waves. I'm close to the beach, but I'm a little bit in the waves right now. Our attention is diverted, right? Sometimes paying attention, those focus issues that we talked about earlier are impacted by our nervous systems. And then, as I mentioned before, both our receptive and our expressive communication abilities start to decline. Now, here's what I want you guys to take from this. With our multilingual students, when we have students at those high levels of language ability and production, if they are bridging students, if they're experienced multilingual students, like we talked about, if they start getting into the waves, we need to start using accommodations for them like they're newcomers sometimes. We need to hold up visuals. We need to use signals. We need to simplify language because their ability to hear what we're saying and to express what they're saying starts declining. Now, I want you guys to think for a moment. Does this resonate with you? Have you been in the waves recently? I know that I have. I travel a lot for work, and the other day I was running to the plane like I always do. I like to cut it short because I like that little adrenaline rush. I was in line for my pre-TSA, and when I got up there, they said, excuse me, your pre-TSA has not been continued, and you do not have pre-TSA anymore. I'm like, okay, that's all fine and good, but my flight is leaving, y'all. I need to get in. I can't wait in that line. And so I was in the waves. I could not hear what they're saying. They were mentioning apps and money and go to this gate where pre-TSA is. I have no idea what they were saying, right? I'm like, just get me through that line. I don't care, you know? And I was having trouble communicating that I don't have time for this right now. I have got to solve this problem really quickly, but my problem solving ability was impacted. I was getting activated and I couldn't think clearly. And I noticed it. And I thought, I need to get myself back to the beach so I can solve this problem and get to my plane in time. Now, I want us to think for a minute. We could go like this, like we're thinking. When was a time recently when you were in the waves? You may not have been completely dysregulated emotionally, but you might have been a little bit activated. And I want you to think about how was your language impacted by that? If you feel comfortable and you have a silly one like me, go ahead and put it in the chat. Yes, minutes away from missing a flight. That's what Elizabeth says. It becomes hard to come up with words. Yes. Work travel. Right? There's so many of these different things. Tongue twisted for sure. Yes. Trying not to panic. Okay, so we get it. There's many different times when we get into that flooded basement, like Renee says, when we end up in the waves and our language is impacted. So they look okay on the surface. How can we tell if this is happening? And what do we do because of it? So our goal, when we see students in the waves and what it might look like, we don't have time to get into this a lot today, but if we ask for language and they typically can produce language, but they're not in this moment, and you kind of sense that there's something going on, our goal is to help them regain balance and feel supported so they can come back to the beach and produce language at high levels. Here's what we do. We use those gestures, right? We use visuals, we use signs, we use simple language. We say, hey, are you okay? Right? Can you come here, please? Whereas normally we might speak in long, complicated sentences, we're going to simplify it. We're going to slow down, just like we would with newcomers. And we're going to connect with the person to help bring them back to the beach. Now, there's another state. And this one is what we think of when we hear about emotional dysregulation. I'm calling this caught in the riptide. And if you were from a place like me, I'm from Seattle, Washington, and we don't swim in the ocean in Seattle. It's too cold. The only reason we go into the ocean is if we're wearing a wetsuit, but we like to sit on the beach and look at the water. So I wasn't familiar with riptides, but we moved to Texas, and so I learned about them very quickly. But what a riptide is, it's a current in the ocean that pulls you out, and if you swim against it, it's very difficult to get out of. You just exhaust yourself, and they're dangerous. So, when a student or ourselves are caught in the riptide, what happens is our feet are no longer on the ground underneath the water. We have lost control. We feel overwhelmed, and now our survival brain has kicked in. A lot of the work that I do when I work with districts, and this is especially important for our multilingual students who have sometimes a different language and culture than their teacher, is there's a lot of behaviors happening, helping teachers to see that these behaviors by students are not an intentional response to like stick it to the teacher. These are survival strategies that have worked in the past, and this is a dysregulated nervous system. And so our job is not to lecture the student, it's to help bring them back to a state of regulation and a state of calm so that language can happen. Because so many times, and especially with our multilingual students, if we can't express what's wrong, our frustration level rises, our stress rises. And so that is why it is so important for us to understand when a student is caught in the riptide. Okay? Our language system is offline. And so when we see students in the riptide, They may be expressing themselves through behaviors. And our job as educators is to see those behaviors, throwing a desk, right? Yelling, as what they're saying is, help me. I am out of control and I can't get out of this riptide on my own. I need help. So, one other thing I want to mention is that when we get caught in a riptide, there's two different responses that we can take. One is to fight. We're going to fight that riptide. We're going to swim as hard as we can. We're not talking anymore. Language is offline. We're fighting. Or shut down. Just let it take me. I'm giving up, right? And so this is important for us to understand so that we know how to help students and how to bring them back. The goal when we see a student in the riptide is safety first. And so sometimes that looks like, hey, let's get this kid out of the class and take a walk with him to keep everybody safe. It looks like calm connection. It is so important that when we see a dysregulated student, we stay regulated ourselves because emotion is contagious. And grounding and breath. It looks like this. If you see a student caught in a riptide, hey, look at me. You are okay. Breathe with me. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let's breathe together. Okay? That's what it looks like. Now, our job, oh, let me tell you where this comes from. So, everything that I'm talking about, I have synthesized the work of some really, really smart people, much, much, much smarter than me. Someday I hope to aspire. I can't even get there. But one of them is polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges, and this talks about the physiology of the nervous system response. And so all the things that I just talked about with this beach analogy, they are informed by the science of how our body responds to stress. Secondly, Dr. Dan Siegel, many of us are familiar with his work. He is the brilliant man who came up with the upstairs, downstairs brain. He wrote many, many more books besides The Whole Brain Child, but here's one you might be familiar with. And then we also have Dr. Bruce Perry and his neurosequential model starts with the brainstem moves up, and we know that we need to regulate before we educate, right? Regulate, then relate to students, and then reason with them. So all of this science is what informs these different nervous system states in the beach and how we respond to them. All right, check these books out if you haven't already. Great, great reads. Now, what is our job in all of this? We need to serve as a lifeguard sometimes. And I want to tell you one more story because when we first came to Texas, when it turned summer, we were so excited to go to the beach because, as I said, we lived in Seattle. We don't swim in the beach, we just look at it. And so we went to the beach in Texas. Beautiful beach for us, beautiful, warm water. When we got there, nobody was on the beach, which should have been our first clue that something was wrong, but we didn't know any better. And so my kids are great swimmers. I had put them in swim classes. We're having a great time. I'm kind of wading in the water with my son. My daughter's playing over here. And then all of a sudden, what turned from a really beautiful, idyllic day turned really scary really quickly. Because I noticed, I looked 1 minute, I was watching my daughter. I looked away for a second. I looked again, and all of a sudden, she's really far out. And she yells, "Help me." My daughter was caught in a riptide. It had pulled her out far. Yes, she's probably like 6 or 7 years old. She's little. I was terrified. I was dysregulated. I knew that I could not get to her in time. Fortunately, I married well. My husband is not from Washington. He's from Florida, and he was a lifeguard in Florida. And so he went running, dove in, and swam to her very quickly. And he grabbed her. And the tide was so strong. I didn't realize this, but it was a red flag day. That's why there was no one on the beach. The tide was so strong that he couldn't swim her back. And so what he did is he held her up above the water when the big waves came, and he had his feet in the sand, grounded. And he walked her back like this until they could get to a spot where they were both in control, right? It was a terrifying experience, but fortunately, my husband was there. And with his lifeguarding, he tells me that what often happens is that one person gets in trouble, someone else runs in to get them, and they both end up drowning, unfortunately, because the person who goes to get them does not know how to take care of them, does not have the strength to swim together with them and get them both out. This is significant because in the important work that we do with students, we must stay regulated ourselves. My husband came from the beach. He was already energized. He was already ready to go. He knew how to navigate the waves. If I were to go and get her, it would not have the same outcome. And so we must know how to navigate the waves of emotions. We must know how, when a student is very, very activated, how to stay calm ourselves so that we can help calm them down. And we must not get pulled under ourselves too, because they are coming at us oftentimes, and our coworkers sometimes, with very activated emotions. And so how do we catch it and put it down and not get pulled in ourselves to these sort of things? It's a very important question in our work. Now, the goal when we are acting as a lifeguard is to stay grounded, keep our feet in the ground, stay in our bodies, be aware of what's happening inside ourselves, and to walk the child back. These different beach states, we move in and out of them all throughout the day. So we move from the beach into the waves. It could be something as little as somebody cutting you off in traffic, right? And then you have to know, how do I get back to the beach? And we move from the beach to the waves, sometimes to the riptide, and then we move back to the waves and then back to the beach all throughout the day. This is happening. Probably not the riptide that much for us, hopefully, right? But you never know what's going to happen. And so this is what we need to be able to do ourselves as lifeguards. And this is what we are teaching our students to do for the optimum language production. And this is significant because it's not only our newcomers who need the gestures and the visuals and the sentence stems, right? If our other students get into states of dysregulation, they need extra language support and they need emotional support at that same time. Now, how do we do this practically? The thing that I tell teachers is that we need to notice and name, and what do we need? So first of all, we notice. How do I feel in my body? Is my heart beating quickly? Is my breathing shallow up in my lungs, or am I doing the deep belly breathing that's kind of moving through my whole chest? How do I feel in my body? Do I feel tense in my shoulders, right? Or do I feel relaxed and calm? Do I feel like I'm foggy in my brain, or do I feel clear thinking? Next, name, what state am I in? And now this is where this framework, if you guys have name ideas, I would appreciate them, becomes really handy. And we've already started using this in my family where we say, hey, you look like you're in the waves right now. Are you okay? Right? I'm on the beach. Can I help bring you back in? And so what state is your nervous system in? And what do you need to go back? Here's the next one, need. What gets me back to the beach? And this is going to be different for everybody, right? Maybe what we need to get back to the beach is I just need 5 minutes by myself, right? Please don't talk to me. Please don't touch me. Please don't say anything to me for 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. And so becoming aware of what you need to get back to the beach. And when I'm coaching teachers on this, these are the types of conversations that we have. How do we get back to the beach when there's 29 sets of eyes staring at us? And so sometimes it's as simple as just doing something like this, where you kind of break eye contact and soften eye contact for a moment so that you could tune into yourself instead of the students. Sometimes it's as simple as opening your hands and taking a breath. Sometimes it's as simple as looking out the window and noticing the color of the tree. What do we need to get back to the beach when we're in that activated state so that we are working at the highest levels of our brain function and language, and so that we can bring our students back to their highest functions of brain levels and language? Okay, now here is the main thing I want us to take from this talk today. Only a regulated teacher can help regulate a student. So when our students are in states of activation, when they're caught in the riptide, please be more like my husband, the lifeguard, than like me, the hypochondriac, right? Check in with yourself. Make sure that you are okay, because our first language that we have all learned is reading other people's nervous systems, reading facial expression, prosody, which means the emotional quality of our voice. And guess what? A high voice activated like this makes us feel more stressed. But a low, calm voice like this makes us feel more confident. And so we need to practice regulation ourselves so that we can regulate our students. I want to go back to my pandemic teaching experience for a moment and the picture by ChatGPT, because you notice my face here, right? And I don't know why I have three arms in this picture. ChatGPT. Okay. Right? But what do you notice about the students' faces? And I didn't tell ChatGPT to do this, but it just did this, right? Go ahead and put in the chat what you notice about the students' faces. Let's see what he'll say. Yeah, they look scared, don't they? They're reacting the same way. And this is because emotion is contagious. And so even if we think we're being neutral, students can pick up on our emotions, can't they? And we pass them in a social system. So this is why this work is so important. Now, I want to tell you one more story. And I'm going to call this story of this student Bryson, right? This is a picture from my own class. I've blurred the faces so you can't see the students. And Bryson is not his real name. Names have been changed to protect the anonymity of students, right? But this student, Bryson, this was his second or third year in the country. And this kid loved to read. Every single day, he'd raise his hand and he'd say, "Library?" I'm like, "Okay, Bryson, I love that you want to go to the library. We just went there yesterday, so we're gonna go in a minute, right?" But he wasn't producing language as I expected him to. And we know that oracy, the ability to speak and listen, precedes literacy, but he wasn't taking risks. And he wasn't speaking in complete sentences at 3 years in the United States. And I'm like, what is going on with Bryson? And so one day we were sitting at the computer and I asked him a question and I gave him a sentence stem and I gave him wait time. It was just he and I, because we, as you notice in this picture, we are never sitting in desks doing teacher lecture style. We're always up out of our seats doing something, sinners, conversations. But at this moment, it was just Bryson and I. And I asked him a question and I provided wait time and a sentence stem. And this is what he did when I asked him the question. He didn't say anything. He just kind of looked around. And then because I am, if I'm an expert in anything, you guys, I'm an expert in anxiety. I have about 10,000 hours in anxiety. And so I said, "Hey, Bryson, are you scared?" And he said, "Yes." And just having him admit that, he looked relieved. And I'll tell you what, I don't know anyone who is more like um, trying to show how tough they are than middle school boys, right? But he admitted, I'm scared. And I'm like, and you know what I said to him? I said, Bryson, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be scared. I'm scared sometimes too. And you know what? You're not alone. I'm here to help you. And so when you're scared, let's figure out what works for you to help you get back to being on the beach, right? Does it look like taking a deep breath? Does it look like taking a break and going into our book nook, which was secretly our calm down corner, and doing fake reading so that you can take a break from the classroom interaction? That's the only time I allow fake reading. It's to save face for them, right? And so we talked about it and we figured out a strategy. And just admitting that he felt scared was bringing him back to the beach. Because as Dr. Dan Siegel says, if you can name it, then you can tame it. And then at the end of the year, he wrote this. Here's his little story, right? And I'm going to go ahead and read it to you guys. It says this: I used to be afraid of school, but then. And I want you to look at his sentences, you guys. How complicated and sophisticated his sentences were. My first year was horrible. I didn't know what to do, where to go, or what to think. It was really confusing to me. And to make it even worse, I didn't understand English. So it made it harder for me and really annoying because I didn't know anything. But then he goes on to write. Why is he writing so well? I have two theories. One is he's on the beach. Secondly is, do you remember I said that he loved to read? Right? We know if students are prolific readers, that that's going to impact their writing. Okay, and then at the end, he says, by the end of the years, I realized how good I was, how much progress I had made, how cool it was English. So now I'm in ILA, not an ESL class anymore, which is even better because this is my ILA class. It's helping to speak more and making me communicate to people. So now I really love school. I have a lot of friends, and now I'm not afraid of being here in school. Isn't that beautiful? Now, for our closing reflection, I want to invite us to think, how do you want to remember this time? How do you want to be remembered this time? Do you want to be remembered as a lifeguard who is able to navigate the waves of students and bring them back to states of regulation and language production? I want us to take a minute and just kind of jot down on our notes with the sentence stem, I want to be an educator who. And then after you've written this down, I'm going to invite us to share a little bit in the chat. Okay, now go ahead and put some in the chat if you'd like to share. I want to be an educator who, and I'm going to read these out. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Leah says, I want to be an educator who fosters belonging in my classroom. I love that. We have Marcella, who can regulate more often, who is remembered by her students, and this is Emily, as a positive influence and someone who helped them grow. Beautiful. And Beverly says, I want to be an educator who provides a safe space for my students to learn, practice, and grow. These are wonderful. I'm not going to read out all of them. Thank you so much for this time of reflection. Thank you for setting an intention for your year to come. And I want to share this with you because I am I want this information out as widely as possible. So I have a graphic that I'm going to share with you about this. I'm calling it the language tide for now. If you think of a better name, please let me know. But the best way to get it is to join my Substack. You can grab the QR code there. You could follow the link, but I will just share this graphic with you on the Substack if you follow me. All right. So go ahead, take out your cell phones, grab that.
We will put in the chat.
Okay.
It also is going to be at the MLSummit.net website. Any
Mhm.
resources that are offered to us, that, if they want to share their slides, if the presenters want to share anything, we will put it it right next to the videos in replay that'll be available by Monday. Thank you, Jennifer, for putting the Substack in there while I was talking. So,
Awesome.
there
Thank
it
you.
is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Elise,
And the
did you want to
last,
say
oh,
anything else? Because I cut you off.
Oh, yes, really quickly, if you like some of this stuff about talking about how nervous systems and brain states impact language and learning, I want to invite you to a 2 hour virtual webinar that I'm giving on August 27th after the school day. So there's no excuses. And maybe you already do these things intuitively. I know Dr. Salva does these things intuitively. If you've ever seen her teach, she's doing all the things. But maybe there's somebody in your life who does not do these things intuitively. And our students deserve for every person to show up for them in a way that helps them to produce language in a calm, confident state. So please invite this person to the virtual webinar. There is a bit.ly down there where you could register, or you could also register on Silence website. And that is everything that I have. Thank you so much for allowing me to share with you today. It's been an honor.